Good morning, everyone, and to people in other time zones, good afternoon. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team, and welcome to this Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life call. It's great to be with you. As you know, Anna Marie P. Terrace and I host these monthly calls. And Anna Marie, can you come in just real quick to say hi here as we're getting started?
Great. Hello from me, everyone. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, and Anna Marie's calling in from South Africa, where she's based, and you'll hear a lot more from Anna Marie shortly. This month, our focus is governance. Our special guest is Dr. Glen Martin. He is the president of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, WCPA, the world's leading advocate for a constitution for a democratic federal world government. He is the author of numerous books, including One World Renaissance, Holistic Planetary Transformation, published in 2016. We'll be introducing Dr. Glen Martin shortly. We're all really excited about today's program. We have about 20,300 registered for today's call. Some cannot listen in live, so we send out a recorded link to these people so they can listen in later. And thank you so much, everyone, for prioritizing time to be here for this important conversation. As always, this call is interactive with each of you, our listeners, so we want to invite you to put your questions in the question window on Instant Teleseminar. I promise we'll get to at least a few of your questions during the hour, and you might go ahead and begin sharing with us now. A little about Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we see there is only one presence, the divine, and see we are all offspring and expressions of the divine. This means God's love, light, grace, and peace are ours, because there is no separation and we share the same essence. Since our founding in 2003, we've done our best to live as one with the divine, each other, and our earth home. We don't need to be perfect. It doesn't have to feel heavy. We must only be our best, and we can have fun with this. When we talk about oneness with the divine, of course, this is true for all of life, not just humanity. This has repercussions for how we see ourselves, others, and the earth that is our home. This means everyone and everything is sacred and should be treated as such. It also means we're responsible for the world around us because, in truth, it's part of our authentic self encompassing the whole of the earth, and perhaps there's nothing more important than this, coming to see ourselves as a cell in the body of the divine, the earth, and stepping into a role where we're caring for the earth and the world that we live in. This is our focus in Humanities Team. If you resonate with our work, we invite you to go to the humanitiesteam.org website and reach out to us about projects you'd like to become involved in. Before we begin our program, my co-host, Anna Marie P. Terrace, is going to introduce herself a little more fully and her role in Humanities Team, and then she'll tell you about the sphere that we're focusing on this month, governance. And over to you, Anna Marie.
Thank you, Steve. A warm hello from me, everyone. It is my privilege to be here with you all again today. I've been serving in Humanities Team since 2005. It's a long, long time ago, as a full-time volunteer, and I have been involved with many of our global projects, but in particular, and in this instance, with our Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life initiative, co-leading with our Executive Director, Steve Farrell. I'm also the country coordinator for Humanities Team in South Africa. Many of you may know about Ubuntu, the ancient African gift of oneness to the world, as I call it, that is best known through the definition, I am because we are, or because you are. On a core and a personal level, I am an advocate and an activist for Ubuntu, and I see myself as a catalyst for Ubuntu as she continues to reveal herself to me and blossoms in and through me as the ultimate truth and realness of life. I'm truly blessed to be part of the growing community involved with the reclaiming and living of our Ubuntu here in South Africa and in the world. When it comes to governance, Ubuntu, that can be described as our unity consciousness, stands as a grand testimony of our sacred oneness with the cosmos and what we can learn from the natural laws that govern life, seeing that we are speaking about governance. True to its nature, I'm sure that our oneness and Ubuntu will grow through us being and having conversation here together again today. So thank you and welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Anna Marie. And do you want to go ahead and bring in the any further discussion about governance?
Certainly, yes. So the sphere of governance deals with the administration of authority and leadership of a community, going beyond mere organizational design and embracing all scales, self-governance to entire nations, from classroom to boardroom, and from human to natural systems. Here we see what we value and how we perceive life, reflected in our governmental designs. We are witnessing a fast-changing world. With the help of information and technology, we are now actually able to witness how we as humans and the world evolve in the same way as it happens in nature. Right now, we are able to witness humanity as a social movement in formation. This movement cannot be divided because it is atomized, made up of small pieces that are loosely joined and that forms, gathers, and dissipates quickly, also capable of bringing down governments, companies, and leaders. Science, information, technology, and our spirituality makes it possible for more and more of us to wake up to our fundamental and awesome oneness. It enables us to see how quantum particles in one part of our cosmos commune with other particles vast distances away, defying our common sense ideas of things being separated by space and time. On our own blue planet, we know that pollution in Siberia can cause deserts in Africa. We know that bigoted religion in the Middle East can bring tragedy to New York, and political decisions in Washington brings death and destruction to countries on the other side of the globe. We are living in exciting times when everything that we have come to accept as the truth is being tested. The sphere of governance is being forced to become a servant of and for the greater good, as more and more of us realize that we are not separate from the government and that we are all together in the process of co-creating our world. We are living in times when we recognize that the world does not have to be the way it is and that individual people can change it using the power of our spiritual citizenship. The stakes are high and the obstacles are great, but as always, there is cause for hope. Evolution has brought us through greater and greater scales of social complexity and self-organization and will continue to do so. With these changes, new leadership integrates spirit and heart as a living force in the world. Principled political candidates are willing to lose, and presidents win elections by promising to create the best opportunities for the electorate, to expand their awareness, to see the depth of their possibilities, and to reach for new levels of experience. Thank you very much, Steve.
Beautiful. Always really wisdom-filled and enlightening. Thank you, Anna Marie.
Thank you.
Okay, let me take you through our agenda briefly, and then I'm going to introduce our special guest. Next, I will introduce our special guest, Dr. Glen Martin, and I'll briefly interview him. There will then be an interactive panel discussion with Dr. Glen Martin and Anna Marie P. Terrace, and then I'll be bringing in questions from you, our listeners. And once again, go ahead and put your questions in the question window in Instant Teleseminar during this program. Before closing, I'll share about coming programs that you don't want to miss. And so let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Let's get started. Please get comfortable. I'm now going to introduce our special guest. Glen Martin, Ph.D., is a professor of philosophy at the Radford University in Virginia and chair of its Peace Studies program. Dr. Martin began his peace work as a conscientious objector to the war in Vietnam. Since then, he has devoted his life to the service of world peace with justice, traveling, and lecturing worldwide and authoring many books and articles on behalf of a holistic and transformed global paradigm and world system. Among his numerous affiliations, Martin is president of the International Philosophers for Peace, IPPNO, and president of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, WCPA, the world's leading advocate for a constitution for a democratic federal world government. As a result of his decades of peace activities, Dr. Martin has received several international awards, including the World Peace Award from the Office of the World Peace Envoy in Bangkok, Thailand in 2008, and the Gusi International Peace Prize in Manila, Philippines in 2003. He's also been nominated for the Mahatma Gandhi Peace Award. Welcome to the Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life program, Dr. Martin. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Steve.
And
can you hear me?
Martin, you're calling in from the other side of the world. We can hear you great. Where are you calling in from today?
As a matter of fact, I'm in Bangkok, Thailand right now. We just...
That is amazing.
Yes, it is an amazing place. Yes, We having a universal love and brotherhood conference here, and the values of OLBA, universal love and brotherhood, are very close to those of humanity's team. It's amazing to me.
Fantastic. Wish we could be there with you, and your voice is just as clear as it can be. So we
good.
We can thank the divine for that. We've got Anna Marie is, of course, in South Africa. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and we all sound like we're in one room. So, yay.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yay.
Well, let's jump right in here. We've really been looking forward to this call with you, Dr. Martin. Let me just bring in the first question. All of the spheres in the wheel, what we call the wheel of co-creation, it's Barbara Marx Hubbard.
Yes, I'm familiar with it. Yes.
Okay, are part of an interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent whole. Of course, they're all essential and responsible for the whole, and so as such, none is more important than the other. However, more than ever before, it seems as if the world is experiencing tremendous chaos, and the world is not in a good place when it comes to governance. Do you agree with this observation, and what, according to you, are the characteristics of a world that is well governed?
Well, I think that first of all, the wheel of co-creation gives us a beautiful model of this interdependence and this what I call holism in my works. And the model can be also misleading because one could, depending on how one evaluates each of the sectors in the wheel of co-creation, one could see it as the center. In other words, we could look at this as a kind of spheron that's constantly changing and interrelating, because everything is interrelated in that wheel. And so there's a certain sense in which governance can be looked at the center too, because unless we have proper governance for our planet, for the oneness of humanity, we're not going to have a future. We've got what governance does is make possible within its sector, within its organizational structures, it makes possible the free operation and interaction of all the other aspects of the wheel of co-creation. So I agree with you. The world is not well governed because it's not governed on behalf of humanity. It's not governed on behalf of the oneness of humanity. It's not governed on behalf of the integral nature of the biosphere of the Earth. It is governed today, as we know, on behalf of huge, powerful multinational corporations and power relationships among so-called sovereign nations, most of which are militarized and promoting their own self-interests vis-a-vis the others. Right, and that's not governance. That's just simply the exercise of power arbitrarily. Real governance is what is, I think, as Anna Marie pointed out very well, it has to do with the common good. Has to do with how do we organize ourselves on this planet so that everybody benefits and that we flourish with our optimum potentialities as human beings, and that simply has never been done on this planet, and is not being done now. So,
yeah, boy, we're gonna go deeper into this. We'll also talk about something called a conscious business declaration that talks exactly about this, creating flourishing for humanity and all of life. It's something that Humanities team partnered with some other organizations with globally to create because as you mentioned, multinational corporations are kind of in the driver's seat here now, and that's not steering us toward the common good. By the way, there are questions coming in, and thank you, Carrie from Sun City, Arizona, has got a great question. We're going to get to that here in just a moment, but we're going to go a little further before I start bringing in questions. But please do drop your questions and comments in the window. And I think it's star 1 or is it star 2. My partners here that are running this program will let me know. And that's how you put your hand up on the phone. We might be able to get to one of you on the phone also. Next question here, Dr. Martin. The one thing that most countries are striving for is democracy. Do you think there is a sufficient understanding among citizens and leaders alike as to what democracy is and what Bernie Sanders where of course he's receiving such tremendous support in the United States elections. Then there's the term social democracy that's now much talked about, and then there's something called deep democracy. What is the ideal form of governance, and how do we get there from here?
I don't think that there's one particular ideal form, Steve. In other words, I think governance can be structured in a variety of ways, and they all can be called democracy. In fact, democracy, I think, is part of a realization on the part of human beings that began way back in ancient Greece, but really flourished during the Enlightenment of the 18th century. This realization on the part of human beings that we are equal, and that we are beings that require freedom in order to develop our potential as human beings. And therefore, it has something to do with what it means to be a human being. Democracy is a kind of understanding that we're all the same, fundamentally the same. And then from that understanding, there developed various ideas about how people should be organizing society and various theories. So the 18th century theorists, such as John Locke, who, as you know, was fundamental in the thinking of those people who wrote the U.S. Constitution, Thomas Jefferson and so on. John Locke talked about God-given natural rights, and he had a model of a people who lived as individuals with these rights prior to what he called the social contract, and he thought they needed to join together in a social contract in order to protect these rights. But the critics have said that he does not give enough emphasis to our commonality, our common human reality, that he looks at human beings as having individual rights before society, and society comes later. But the holistic view that I've promoted in my writings and so on, and the holistic view that's been understood throughout much of the 20th century, sees that we're interdependent and interrelated in such a way that we need to be thinking of how we can devise forms of leadership and forms of organization that mirror our essential oneness as human beings. And so democracy, when you mentioned deep democracy, I think that's correct, that deep democracy is a form of the holism that I'm talking about, that understands that we're related on many levels, not just the level of voting and majority rule, but human beings interrelate and intercommunicate and understand each other on many levels, and we have to take these levels into consideration when we're talking about democracy. But all this abstract talk, I want to clarify, it does have a concrete focus, in my view. And as president of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, I have for many years been promoting the ratification of the Constitution for the Federation of Earth, which is a concrete and beautiful document, about 30 pages long, that lays out an organization for the Earth that integrates unity and diversity in what I think is a very brilliant way. The more I study this, the more I'm impressed with the possibilities this has for really transforming our planet if people awaken to these possibilities in this Constitution and act to ratify it. I think that an ideal form of governance is one that does understand this concept of deep democracy, where it isn't just a matter of majority rule, but we have to look at every human being and their views, whether minority or majority, as having a role in in the global common good, and the need to actualize the potential of every human being. And actualizing that potential means to satisfy our basic needs as well: food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, and so on. And the Earth Constitution, the Constitution for the Federation of Earth, addresses all of those things, as I was saying, and I think in a beautiful way. So I don't know if that's adequate as a start on your question.
Yeah, no, great. In fact, I was just going to go into that. Of course, the heart of democratic government is a constitution, and you kind of steered into that in your response. So, maybe we could call this the contract of the country. In your latest book, One World Renaissance: Holistic Planetary Transformation, you write about the need for the creation of a global social contract that can only be adopted through a profound philosophical shift to holism, the same evolutionary holism that has swept all of the world's sciences. Since we are not able to realize the ideals of so many incredible constitutions, what is different with the global social contract that you are proposing, and how will it be realized? You kind of started talking about that, but maybe we can go a little deeper.
Okay. I think the reason why we have not been able to realize the ideals of many national constitutions is precisely because we need to move to a meta level. My wife and I were in Venezuela in March, and we talked to government officials and studied their constitution and so on. And as you know, Venezuela thinks of them as having a Bolivarian revolution, socialist revolution, where they have programs to eliminate hunger and provide everybody with housing, and provide everybody with health care, and provide everybody with opportunities for education, free education. And they will not be successful, and they know it. The U.S. Is trying to destabilize their country, and they told us that, and funneling funds into their dissident groups and trying to get their dissident groups to destabilize their programs and prevent us from being successful. And this brings us to the meta level. If you have a world that's divided into 193 or so-called sovereign nations, each of which thinks of itself as an independent unit with autonomy over its internal affairs and autonomy in its external affairs, its foreign policy, what you have is a prescription for chaos. And no country, since countries and human beings are all interdependent and interrelated, no country can possibly actualize the ideals of its constitution. Venezuela can't do it. It's a beautiful constitution. I read it. I read the English version of it. And the United States can't do it. And there's no country on earth that can possibly actualize its ideals, because democracy is a human ideal. And we're all interrelated on this planet, economically, politically, in every other way, in terms of the biosphere and our evolutionary oneness and so on. We cannot do it unless we begin to govern ourselves as a whole. And that's where the Earth Constitution brings in this diversity. It doesn't abolish it at all. It brings in all the nations and says, okay, each nation, as long as you are democratic, that is, as long as you respect the fundamental human rights given by the Constitution, each nation has the right to organize itself as it sees fit. You know, there's different models by which you can have elections or find out the popular will. In Libya, for example, where I was for 3 times before it was destroyed by the imperialist powers, they called what they did their direct democracy, and they had a system of community meetings in which people would meet together in the community and discuss their problems and issues and send them forward to the next level. And they said, this is better than your representative democracy in the United States, they told me. And you know, that would be fine as long as human rights are protected. But we need to embrace all of humanity in a global social contract. That's what's going to make possible the actualization of the ideals in the Venezuelan Constitution and in other constitutions. It is not possible as long as humanity remains fragmented into 193 or so absolute entities with no coordination, no real governance over all of them. So that's a start, right, in talking about, I think, in addressing your question. So what is different about the global social contract is not that it's designed, I think it's designed beautifully, as I was saying before, but it isn't that there's one design for a government or one design for people that is the ultimate design that no one has ever discovered before, but rather what the design it builds unity and diversity. That is, the voices from all over our planet, from every continent. It specifies leaders in the various agencies of the government. It has to have one a presidium of 5, and one has to be from each continent. And it has many, many ways in which the unity and diversity of humanity is brought into the world parliament and the agencies of the world government. And so the bringing in of these this multiplicity together into this unity allows them to, for the first time, really to say, okay, we're all human beings. We've got these terrible problems. We've got environmental collapse. We're facing the danger of nuclear weapons. We're facing all kinds of conflicts and misunderstandings among people, Palestinians and Israelis and so on. How are we going to deal with these? And so, you might say, as Peter Russell put it, the global brain will awaken for the first time, a global consciousness in which people now have a deep democracy in the sense that they're thinking in terms of the good of everyone and not the good of my country, not the good of my party, not the good of my capitalist investments to make more money, but the good of everyone on the planet.
Wow, boy, stunning, really beautiful. What a great vision. And, of course, as you mentioned, Humanities team, with all of the work that we're doing, certainly points in the direction of what of this vision and these initiatives that you're talking about. What is the current status of this initiative, this global social contract, and how can people and organizations become involved?
The World Constitution and Parliament Association was founded in 1958 by Philip and Margaret Isley, who were from Denver, Colorado. And they're the ones, they were great visionaries. The World Federalist Movement itself goes back all the way to World War I as an active movement. Philosophically, it has deeper roots, but it goes back to World War I and the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. In the First World War, leaders of that International League for Peace and Freedom were saying, this war is a product of the system of sovereign nations. It's not good nations versus bad nations. It's not the fact that the Archduke was assassinated in Serbia. What is really going on here is that there is no law over the nations. So nations do whatever they want, and it leads to chaos. And so that idea that the problem is the system of sovereign nations itself has been a movement, a fairly widespread movement since the First World War. It flourished between the wars. Certainly after the Second World War, it was very, very widespread. And then it was largely derailed by the Cold War. And a lot of people who were world federalists said, if the world is divided into these two giant camps, how are we going to have a world federal system? And it sort of lost ground in the Cold War. But these visionaries, Philip and Margaret Isley, beginning in 1958, they said what the world really needs is a constitution. And they used their wealth that they had from their successful business to contact people all over the world, international lawyers, thinkers, professors of law in countries around the globe, and they brought them together in 4 big assemblies beginning in 1968 in Innsbruck, in Interlaken, Switzerland. And then the next one was in 1977 in Innsbruck, Austria. And then they had one in Colombo, Sri Lanka. And the 4th one was in 1991 in Troia, Portugal. And in between these big meetings, they were constantly in contact with one another about this draft for the Constitution that they were working on. They had a drafting committee, and they worked on it. And the result by 1991 was what we now have as the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. It's online in many places. Its original is English, but it's been translated into some 23 different languages. And we have, the World Constitution and Parliament Association has advocates in countries around the world and active chapters in many countries as well. And people can go on my website or our central WCPA website, and they can become members as individuals, or they can join as organizations. We have many environmental organizations or youth organizations that want to link up with this global movement for a decent social contract for the planet, and so they continue their work, whatever it is, environmental work, but they understand that ultimately the work of Greenpeace can never be successful unless we have a global government that can really institutionalize the principles of sustainability, and so that we just don't have to go out in our boats and fight the Japanese whalers or try to interfere with Shell or Exxon as they dump waste someplace. That we really now have a set of laws, enforceable laws, and a set of principles for the development of industry and the development of technology and the use of our precious planet that are enforceable for everybody. And that's what will bring sustainability to the planet. So people can Google us. They can Google the World Constitution and Parliament Association. Google the Institute on World Problems that works with us. Google the Earth Constitution, which is the official name of which is the Constitution for the Federation of Earth, and they're found many places online. And we embrace people. We have in our organization we have people from every religion. The Baha'i religion. In a week, we're leaving Thailand and we're going to Japan, where we have many supporters in the Omoto religion, which is one of the new religions of Japan that sees the world as one reality, and all human beings as brothers and sisters. And their leader, their founder, Onesaburo Deguchi, said that we need world government, world law. So we have Muslims in Bangladesh supporting us, many Hindus in India, of course Christians. Many Christians in West Africa support us because they see this as related to bringing the kingdom of God to earth, peace and loving one's neighbor on the earth and so on. So we're hoping that people, want to support this, because unless people do, there's nothing I can do. Even as president of WCPA, there's nothing. I'm only one person, and the Constitution under Article 17 has to be democratically ratified by the nations and the people of Earth. And so this has to be something that the people of Earth decide, yes, we don't want power structures or military superpowers or multinational corporations dominating our Earth any longer. We want the common good of everybody on the planet to be respected and embraced. And when they decide that, then they have this concrete tool to make it happen. You know, that's the way I think of the Constitution, is a blueprint, a concrete tool. We can make it happen using this 30-page document. And you know, this, in my view, after all these years of working with this, it's really our key hope, our key tool by which we can move rapidly enough into a decent future, which eliminates weapons of mass destruction and eventually eliminates all militaries, and which protects our global environment. You know, it's the tool for doing that as rapidly and certainly non-violently and as democratically as possible.
Yeah, boy.
So I don't know.
No, that was.
Yeah.
I want to make sure you mentioned several websites and Googling, but right now I'm on the worldparliament-gov.org site, worldparliament-gov.org site. So people could maybe, that's one site you could go to there to check this out and to become involved. I want to bring in my partner here, Anna Marie Peters, because I'm sure, Anna Marie, you have lots of things you're wanting to bring in at this point.
Yeah, sure. I have so many questions. We definitely won't be able to get to all of them, but I hope we'll have another opportunity again in the future. But yes, Dr. Martin, certainly. I remember when you were introduced to me, I was so excited. I remember I had to show my husband what this was all about, and I know that Barbara Marks Hubbard also spoke so well of you and what you're doing. So thank you for that. It's really amazing, and also it looks so huge. It looks so unachievable, but I know it is. But I spoke a little bit about Ubuntu in the beginning, since here in South Africa or in Africa at large, this oneness that we're talking about on a global level is called Ubuntu. Now, you were talking about laws here as well. Now, one of the universal laws of oneness or Ubuntu is the law of analogy. And with this, I'm trying to bring all of this down a little bit to the person on the ground. So this stands for as above, so below. And this means that whatever it is that we find dominating out there is a reflection of what is going on in general in the individuals that make up our society. And now one of the things that I've come to know through Ubuntu and that I find so precious, and it comes through the word itself, and that is that human beings and life as a whole is a process. So the word Ubu stands for becoming. And the African root word Muntu stands for highest being or highest potential. And this so beautifully confirms for me our evolution, the evolutionary process, that we are all in a process of becoming. And this ties into this idea of yours, that this confirms to me that the universal law states that no one is to be left out, is that we need to recognize that we are all born into this life at an entry level. Isn't that so? We all have to pass through different developmental levels and tiers that Ken Wilber speaks of to finally come to our self-actualization and to world peace and unity. So with this being a fact of life, I guess what we would want to do is to facilitate the healing of all levels in society. You know, starting from the most basic, you know, where the only thing that we're concerned about is for me to survive and to have a roof over my head. We want to create a world that is conducive for children to grow up, not so. We want to where our motivation shifts from deficiency needs to being needs. We're really more concerned about the way we are, our being. And I can see, thankfully, as part of our evolution, is that it is becoming available more and more for us as human beings, because there are so many processes that have been regarded as to belong to the mystery schools in the old times. These are becoming available for us, so it's possible for us to wake up. It's possible for us to grow up and to clean up. So with all of this, I'm just confirming, in a way, and bringing to ground what you've been sharing. So thank you so much for that.
No, thank you. Yes, there's various movements, as we all know, that there's a movement, for example, among people who have alternative spirituality, and this is worldwide, who say that we need a spiritual transformation first before we have a global government. And then there are also people who are localists who say we need economics on the cooperative local level, and this is the key thing. And I don't disagree with any of this, but I think we're in a dialectic, that the structural dimension, the institutions that we live under, like today it's global capitalism and the system of sovereign nations, they bear on people's consciousness, and they actively impair our ability to grow and realize our potential. So if we change those systems, by creating a system under the Earth Constitution, which gives us global public banking directed toward the common good instead of corporations directed toward private profit, if we change those systems, then our consciousness will simultaneously be changing. There's a dialectic going on here, and I think that's why. That's why we need
often
the Earth
when I advocate for Ubuntu, for example, when we sit in meetings and so we're trying to reclaim our Ubuntu and to make it alive again, people often say to me, "But Anna-Marie, you are talking about such abstract stuff. There are things to be done, and this is exactly what you're saying. What comes first of all of this?" Yeah. And I can see, because we can start another school, we can start another system, but the question is, what is the quality of that system? What is the beingness of that system? If it's an unhealthy system, we'll just create more schools and more systems that are unhealthy and that's not functional.
Let me bring in too just the of course our invitation and humanities team. We're now 13 years old. We started in 2003 and what we've been promoting from the beginning is just that each of us individually first step into this in our own real aspect of what it is to be one with the divine, to make the abstract practical and tangible, just in our own life lived. And even to this day, we're still mostly all volunteer people that all came together with a lot of passion. We've created coherence in what we're doing. Even with listeners, we're there's a coherence here of seeing that there is one presence. It's the divine. We're all, expressions of that. And so, and then in our own home, just living that, each of us in the diversity of the ways that we might, where we consider recycling and alternative energy and food choices. And there's so many decisions, of course, that we can make in terms of how we live our life and how with our family we live our life. And getting involved in organizations, helping to do community outreach service projects, in oneness. So this has also been, one of our key invitations to that if we live it first, each of us in our own way. Of course, there is no one way, but if we live it really fully, each of us in our own way, then that can, as within, so without. That we can create world change just by really living it authentically. And Glenn, I can hear Dr. Martin in your voice. Just you obviously are living it, with your as a person and in your family life. And I think people can hear this, and so we can create change just within our own neighborhood. And then we get on a call like this where we have so many people that are listening in. We bring energy to each other. We bring inspiration to each other. We bring strength to each other.
Yes. But I'd like to just insert that living the divine in us on all levels. I think we need to also think in terms of planetary level. There are people, thinkers going back into the 70s, like Buckminster Fuller spoke of planethood and spaceship Earth, and we need to be thinking of governing ourselves, self-government, for the Earth, and if it doesn't, I think, people used to say, think globally and act locally. Well, I think we should do both, act locally and think globally and act globally, right? We need to be acting on the global level by supporting the Earth Constitution because this is a key tool for the transformation and the protection of everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. Amen.
What that makes me think of, Dr. Martin, is I also thought about this as I was preparing for this call. We're certainly having this conversation in South Africa at the moment. We have a constitution. Part of the constitution is this question of human rights. But there's a big thing that comes with human rights, and that is our responsibility. And I think that this is where this whole thing of self-governance comes in. You can't just have your human right that stands separate from your responsibility to others. And responsibility doesn't only mean that you are responsible, so you are to blame for what happens, but it means that we are able to respond whatever happens out there. We are not victims. We have tremendous power, and we need to claim back that power of ours. I believe we've given it away.
That's right. And if we think that we're so small and so helpless vis-a-vis the big corporations and the big governments. You can't even get near Washington, D.C. anymore. It's so protected by layers of surveillance and security and secrecy and so on. But if we start thinking, all of us, thinking in terms of our responsibility for the planet and our responsibility for ourselves, but we're responsible for future generations. Even our own children are not going to flourish unless we have a solution for the whole planet. And so I think it's absolutely right that it's a matter of being able to respond as an individual here living in Togo or Ghana or wherever I live, at the same time responding as a human being, a citizen of the Earth, a member of the people living on spaceship Earth.
And that is the oneness, isn't it? I mean, because we are a cell in the body of humanity, the Earth, and the divine. And so that's the beautiful thing is when we walk through that door of consciousness and really see ourselves that way, then we naturally come into service that way. And there, of course, are these positive things too. My God, the Pope with his encyclical, wasn't it just incredible to come out and just connect all of those dots of our oneness and the Earth and how we need to be activists and we need to protect our Earth and the statements that have been made about capitalism run amok where there isn't any regard. The focus really is just profits, which then creates all kinds of dysfunction. Let me bring in a question. I want to make sure we get to a listener here. One of the questions that came in, Carrie in Sun City, Arizona, says, how do you deal with people who believe that a one-world government means the abolition of their religious beliefs and their religious rights?
That's a good question, especially coming from the United States, where we get this very often. As people know, there's a kind of ideological Christianity that flourishes, especially in the United States, that focuses on the Book of Revelation in the Bible, doesn't focus on the teachings of Jesus, which I myself focus on, but on the Book of Revelation, which speaks of the end time, and it implies in their interpretation people who want to establish world government, democratic world government, are the work of the devil. It implies that only God and God's grace is going to transform this world, and ultimately there'll be a judgment and so on, and that that people who are trying to do this and create a world government are going to be oppressing the religions and so on. But it's very difficult in the literature on democracy, which I've read a lot of. I'm writing a new book on democracy right now. The thinkers have trouble dealing with so-called fundamentalist religious ideologies because they don't listen to they don't respond to our common humanity very well, and they don't respond to reason very well, and the kind of reason and love that I find in the Gospels of Jesus, where I think they imply when Jesus says we need to bring the kingdom of God to earth, and it has to be a place where we love one another and we love God. I find that as fully compatible. In fact, as a call for democratic world law. And so I really don't know how to respond to someone who's very ideologically stuck in the Book of Revelation and that interpretation of the Book of Revelation. But I think it's very important to point out that the Gospels themselves, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are entirely different, and they don't bring in this kind of fear of having a just and equitable world order, world of some sort that allows all the religions to flourish and brings people together as brothers and sisters around from everywhere on the earth. So I don't know if I address the question or not.
I think just drawing the contrast, it's perfect. Just putting that contrast out there, Dr. Martin. Yeah. So and we do. I live in the United States, and of course there is this challenge. Yeah. So and you live in Virginia. So and you're in Southern Virginia, there near Richmond.
That's right.
Yeah. My gosh, I know what you've got there. It's quite a bit different than Boulder, Colorado.
Yes.
Well, we've only got, about 4 more minutes before we're going to talk about some coming programs. So I want to, Dr. Martin and Anna Marie, if you all each could take maybe a couple of minutes, just, calls to action here. This is an important call, governance. You mentioned, Dr. Martin, that governance could even be, play a more central role in the wheel of co-creation, because without governance that pulls it all together, where are we going to get into anyway? So any calls to action you'd like to bring in, and then Anna Marie, over to you, also with your call to action before we go to announcements.
Well, I would like to point out that Article 19, the last article of the Earth Constitution, allows the people of Earth, even before the Constitution is ratified, to begin provisional world government. And whatever resources the people of Earth have who are behind us can be used to create the ministries of that are outlined by the Constitution, the agencies that are outlined by the Constitution. And so far, since we've been doing this, the one thing that we've been most successful with has been holding sessions of the Provisional World Parliament. The first session of the Provisional World Parliament was in 1982 in Brighton, London, and since that time we've held 14 sessions of it. The last session was in Kolkata, India in December 2015. And so people come together. Sometimes there's fewer people, sometimes there's much larger numbers of people, depending on all kinds of circumstances. But people who are signatories to the Constitution, it's possible, just to be a signer, as I am. I say I sign the Constitution, the Pledge of Allegiance to the Constitution, and I say I am recognizing this as my law, the world law. It supersedes the law of my country and of all countries. Right? It is the law for humanity, and I recognize this as the supreme law for humanity. And it's possible to sign the Constitution and participate in the beginnings of the democratic world government, the Earth Federation government under the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. Right? Article 19 gives us that right and that duty to do that. And so people can come to the sessions of the Provisional World Parliament. They can work with us to develop chapters of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, which study the Constitution and try to promote it locally around the world. They can do service projects and in the name of the Constitution, So, and we've had people doing agricultural projects or media projects or helping people who are subject to disasters, and some of the help that these people have received have been in the name of the world, of the Earth Constitution and the Earth Federation movement. So there's all kinds of opportunities for people to take action if they want to. Beginning, I would hope, beginning with looking at the Constitution and becoming a personal signatory. There's a Pledge of Allegiance to the Constitution available, and people sign this and they email it to us and send it in, and it's the beginning of a new responsibility, taking responsibility for humanity and for future generations.
Yeah, great.
So
I love
think,
that invitation, which is then we obviously can be involved in all of the politics in our own country, vote, but at the same time, as you mentioned, become involved in this because these things are both important. And that was worldparliament-gov.org is one of the sites that you can go to become involved in this initiative. And Anna Marie, in about 30 seconds, just do you have
sure.
do you have about a 30-second call to action?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be short, Steve. It's again going back to being informed and bringing this back to the local level. I'm so excited about this global thing, but certainly, to invite people on a local level to know their constitution, to know their human rights, to know their Bill of Responsibilities, to most certainly check into the natural laws that govern the universe. Let us see what we can follow according to that. Those are so beautiful and powerful. You can't find anything better. And also be be mindful of who you choose as leaders and hold them accountable. And with that, I'm over to you.
Amen. Yeah, wonderful. Wow, what a valuable and thought-provoking call. Just really amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Glen Martin, and also my colleague here, Anna Marie Peters. Awesome. I'm going to come back and thank you some more, but let me get started that way. Let me share some coming programs. Next Thursday, on May 26th, I'll be interviewing Barbara Marks Hubbard, who we've been talking about here. She is, of course, she was our Spiritual Leadership Award winner in Humanities Team a couple of years ago. She's also a friend and the creator of the Wheel of Co-Creation, and she founded and leads the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. She's also on the faculty of the Humanities Team Conscious Business Curriculum. That call next week, Thursday the 26th, starts at 9 o'clock a.m. Los Angeles time. That's Pacific Daylight Time. Then a week later, on Thursday, June 2nd, I'll be interviewing Lance Secretan. He is a former CEO of Manpower, a Fortune 100 company, and the founder of the Secretan Center. He's also written extensively about oneness. He's also on the faculty of the Humanities Team Conscious Business Curriculum. And that call also starts at 9 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time. That's Thursday, June 2nd. To see all of our upcoming programs, you can go to livinginone.com. All of our programs are free, and then if you miss the call, the recordings are also available for free for 48 hours. I mentioned earlier during this program that Humanities Team, together with partner organizations, the Club of Budapest, based out of Europe, the Goy Peace Foundation, based out of Japan, and the Fowler Center for Business, out of Case Western Reserve University, recently created a conscious business declaration that defines a whole new standard for business in the 21st century. It shares that we must move beyond profit as the exclusive focus to profit that comes from nurturing humanity and life on Earth. And please go to consciousbussinessdeclaration.org to learn about it. Dr. Martin, we would, if this aligns with your beliefs, we'd love for you to sign and have you become a founding signatory of that declaration.
I'll take a look.
Yeah, consciousbusinessdeclaration.org. So everybody check that out, please. Our program, of course, is focused on living in oneness. So I want to invite you to be part of something we created about a year ago. It's called Community Circle. It's only $10 a month or $100 a year, which is even less. It's for those who wish to be part of an intentional community committed to living and embodying oneness, those who want to collaborate and connect with leaders engaged in spiritual activism, and a community that gives and receives support, a program that gives you access to all of our audio links to the Living in Oneness Summit, Global Oneness Day, and much more. There are over 360 programs that you can access anytime for you and your family. It's kind of like an intentional community without having to move into one. Many of us enjoy the freedom and privacy of our own home, but miss the support of that you often get in an intentional community, and that's what we're providing here with Community Circle. You can go to humanitiesteam.org and just scroll down. You'll see a big square box that talks about Community Circle. You can click on that to learn more. Again, it's $100 a year or $10 a month. Okay, thank you, Dr. Glen Martin, and also my colleague Anna Marie Peters. Thanks so much for this program. Really invaluable, thought-provoking, fantastic. Dr. Martin, we look forward to having you back. For sure.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you.
And then I also want to thank my colleagues here, Nanette Kennedy, Dee Meyer, Penny Heipel, who are running this program. They create it, run it in the background, create the promotions and things. Thank you so much to my colleagues. And last, definitely not least, all of you, the listeners, who've made it a priority to be here for this program. Thank you, because this is what is the shift in this world has already begun, and this is what's keeping the momentum of this thing moving forward. In closing, I want to invite everyone to really live as one with the divine in each other. This is ultimate reality, and this is one of the best ways to spread the invitation of oneness, and it's how we'll create the world we've all dreamed about and envisioned. As we know, we already are all one, so let's embody it. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next Thursday, May 26th at 9 o'clock Pacific time with Barbara Marks Hubbard when we're back on the air. Okay, thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Dr. Martin.
And Anna Marie.
Thank you, Steve, and Nanette and Dee, and everyone. Talk soon. Much love. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.